Hey, what is up? Welcome to this episode of the Entrepreneur to Entrepreneur podcast. As always, I'm your host, Brian Lofermento, and I'll tell you what, when I thought about today's guest and how I want to introduce him, this is someone who's so incredible in the way that he sees the world, the energy that he shows up in service of others. He loves business as well. But what really comes to mind is that where others see a dichotomy, today's entrepreneur and visionary sees opportunity to make the world a better place, opportunity to enhance the way that we do business and the way that leaders serve the people that they're in charge of and that they're working alongside with. This is someone who, when we talk about AI, you're going to hear the ways that he views of merging AI with the power of humans, which I'm going to remind you all, there's nothing more powerful than all of us humans. So let me tell you all about today's guest. His name is Chad Sanderson. Chad is an award-winning business strategy, sales, and marketing disruptor with over 25 years of proven results in driving revenue growth, facilitating market expansions, leading digital transformation and technology adoption, and building high-performance teams. He has worked with some really cool companies. He's worked with solopreneurs, startups, and globally recognized brands from Adobe to the Minnesota Vikings, and so much more. Today, he is the co-founder, and I love this title, the Minister of Mavericks for his company DeepHumanX, which is a company founded to help leaders not only understand and leverage AI, but in doing so, also effectively augment their leadership with AI. Now, our team, you all know, we're so excited about the fact that we get to reach out to entrepreneurs who we really respect and we want to learn from them. And what I want to tell you about Chad's website, it caught our team's eyes immediately. Right in the header, their headline is AI augmented, human enhanced, purpose driven. And for all of us, no matter what industry you're in, these are the tools that are going to take you to that next level. And the thinking and the way that Chad sees the world is really going to elevate our game. So I'm not going to say anything else. Let's dive straight into my interview with Chad Sanderson. All right, Chad, I'm so excited that you're here with us today. First things first, welcome to the show.
Thanks. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. I'm excited to have the conversation.
Heck yeah, you've got a lot to live up to, Chad, because you and I were geeking out about business before.
That was a hell of an intro.
Honestly, and what listeners didn't see was you and I were geeking out even before we hit record, so I know how brilliant you are. I'm excited to bring it to light here today. So first things first, take us beyond the bio. Who's Chad? How'd you start doing all these cool things?
Yeah, so it's been a very circuitous route, right? So I actually, believe it or not, my undergraduate degree was what at the time everybody said, why are you doing this? It was a liberal arts degree. It was basically a communications degree. And I went from there into marketing and did marketing for a lot of years for software companies. And once I had gotten to a point where I was running global marketing for a software company, had the opportunity to kind of give that up and go back to be a frontline seller. And so did that, was wildly successful with it as a result of my understanding of marketing and sales. Went throughout my career as an executive, and then about 8 years ago, we sold the last company I was at to KPMG and decided to invest in building my own business to help individuals have better conversations. And so I've done that for the last 8 years, and that really at the heart of it, although I'm not sure I knew it at the time, was really my purpose, was I really enjoy teaching, facilitating, helping other individuals achieve success. And so when AI, caught people's attention, because it's been around for a very long time, although many people apparently didn't realize that, but it's been around for a very long time. ChatGPT comes along, and what we start to see is this acceleration of technological change faster than most companies and definitely most individuals who live normal lives or are running businesses have to keep up with it. And so someone I'd worked with in the past, Lori Kirkland, she's got a neuroscience background. Her and I got together and said, hey, I think there's an opportunity here amidst all of this fear, uncertainty, and doubt around AI. I think there's a way to combine the tech and help people become more purpose-driven and augment themselves effectively to achieve outcomes that they hadn't expected or even potentially imagined. And so back in March, we decided to found the company. We did so 90 days in. We're using AI at every turn, and the savings and impacts we've had in our own company have been phenomenal. And we're getting ready to help even more people by releasing some coursework.
Yes, Chad, I love that overview. And I'm going to put you on the spot later in today's conversation because I know one of your superpowers is about seeing those patterns and seeing those connections. But before we go there, I teased you at the top of this episode about how most people see a dichotomy. When we talk about AI, it's AI versus humans. And it just, everything I've seen out of what you're doing with DeepHumanX is totally different from that narrative. Talk to us about that more macro narrative that you see in society even. I think this transcends business. Turn on the news and you'll hear people talking about AI. So I'd love to hear your thoughts there.
Yeah, there's a lot of fear about it, right? And if you read some of the reports and some of the predictions from reputable places, whether it be McKinsey or the Brookings Institute, there are some predictions that this is going to have probably a bigger change than when the internet came out, right? But the challenge is it's going to happen faster than the internet did because the tech is evolving. So there's a lot of fear of, I'm going to be replaced. And okay, I'm gonna be honest. There are going to be some people that get displaced, replaced, whatever you want to call it. But it isn't a matter of the AI replacing humans. It's really more about AI enhanced humans, people that are using the tech effectively, replacing those who aren't willing to lean into it and aren't willing to up level their human skills. All of the experts that you hear out there, whether it be CEO of NVIDIA or CEO of Microsoft, they all talk about the fact that, all right, the STEM education that we got coming up probably focused on the wrong things now because the tech actually doesn't require you to understand it to use it effectively. And so there's this big need on up-leveling the human skills. And I think there's a huge opportunity for those people that want to lean into it to remove some of the fear that comes from working with a mentor or a peer that just is naturally involved in those human-to-human connections to be able to use the tech to explore and understand themselves and their leadership style and recreate the way businesses work and the way work gets done. And so for us, it's partially about mindset. We're not going to be for everybody. I'll be right up front. If somebody's looking for a silver bullet, good luck. But at the end of the day, there's more opportunity than I think there should be fear. And we're here to help people figure that out.
Yeah, I love the way you phrase that, especially I'm going to take a little bit of a different twist on the fear that's involved because obviously I live inside the world of entrepreneurship. And when we have these conversations about AI within entrepreneurship, whether it's solopreneurs, whether it's people who've got 10 to 20 employees, I just feel like the most immediate fear is, well, everybody else is doing this, so I have to do it. And Chad, they kind of lose sight of, why is it that we're using AI? Like, how does this tool actually get us closer? And so that's why I find it so fascinating that the messaging that's in your business is not just about AI. It's not just about the human component of it, but purpose driven. It's so clear there. And what I see, and I want to hear your thoughts on it, so correct me if I'm wrong, but what I see in the purpose driven part of your messaging is not we use AI for this purpose. It is AI gets us closer to our purpose. Talk to us about that purpose driven approach.
Yep. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Daniel Pink. If anybody hasn't read his book, To Sell is Human, there's another one I believe called Drive. They did some research to figure out what is it that really motivates people. And usually, even if you're a solopreneur or you're working for a company, most people's initial reaction is, well, money. Because if I won the lottery tomorrow, like really won the lottery, like FU money won the lottery, would you still do what you're doing? And so when we look at this, money's not the motivator. It's a means to the end. What people really want is the autonomy to develop a set of skills through to mastery to realize a purpose. And so we think there's an opportunity, and there's research out there that proves it, that purpose-driven solopreneur companies, small companies, even purpose-driven large companies are far more successful than those that have kind of what we consider an outdated mindset. And so when we talk about purpose, it is really an individual's purpose. We're not talking about, hey, we have to use AI. We're talking about what do you really want to do? What really lights you up and helps you show up as the best version of yourself that could benefit other people, right? We're big believers in the concept of collective thinking. So DeepHumanX has been founded as a collective, right? Lori and I are not going to tell you that we have all of the answers. We have a great deal of experience that we can draw from. We have some insights that we can leverage, but we're not going to have all of the answers. Nobody is. And so we believe that true purpose-driven individuals coming together in a community, in a collective, and in their businesses will be happier, healthier, and far more lucrative. Make more money, as Lori likes to say.
Yeah, I love that, especially because those are the goals we're all aspiring for in our businesses. It makes business more fun. It makes business more purposeful. And also it rewards us accordingly, which is a natural byproduct of when we do business the right way and when we're in service of others. So Chad, I want to ask you, because a lot of people who are listening right now are busy running their businesses. They're worried about sales and marketing and all of these other things. Talk to us about that AI augmentation. How's that the vehicle, or one of the vehicles and tools through which we can achieve all of these strategic business goals?
Yep. So there's a couple of ways to look at AI. Right now, the vast majority of people are looking at it as a productivity enhancement tool, right? So how do I make the cog in the wheel spin faster? And that makes sense because a lot of the things, a lot of places it's showing up, it is driving significant efficiency. But that's kind of using the old mindset and applying the same thinking to a new tool. What we believe is possible is to look at this technology, to use it as a research partner, a brainstorming person, somebody that's going to help me think in ways I hadn't thought before. So a perfect example would be, as we were building DHX, I have a marketing background, but I'm not a designer. I can write, but I'm not a content creator. But I created a GPT, customized GPT with our, core values and our approach that I used to go back and forth with, that would allow me to come up with approaches and website content and things that I probably would not have come up on my own. And it was a process of going back and forth, brainstorming and exploring. Now, as a result, the content that we've created for our courses and our website and our marketing, we did that in 30% of the time that it took me the last business I started to do the same amount of work. So we drastically saved time. But what's interesting is the caliber of the content is resonating better because I'm using AI to do pressure tests on it. I'm using it to compare it to best standards. So I'm using it in a way that makes me more effective at really bringing to the forefront the things that I am uniquely able to bring to the market. And that enhancement is something that requires, yes, you need to know how to use the tools, right? But the tools aren't complex. Really, it's about pushing your thinking. Like, how can you use it outside of what you're seeing the news tell you it can be used for? And so it's that really embracing that creativity and that curiosity and engaging with the tool in different ways, not only for efficiency and productivity savings, but to help push you to be better, to be focused on what you can do. And at the end of the day, I don't know about anybody else, but if you're running your own business, there are things about running a business I don't like. I don't want to do them. I'm not good at them. Accounting, perfect example. I'm not real good at accounting, but I have hired an outside firm that is AI augmented, so it saves time, reduces my costs, and allows me to free up and focus on the things that are more relevant to my purpose at the end of the day.
Yeah, Chad, it's so cool hearing your real life use cases of these. And I want to go deeper there because one thing that I've observed about my own AI usage, I mean, you so correctly pointed out that OpenAI and ChatGPT brought it into the mainstream, but we've seen Amazon, Target, Best Buy, all of these companies have been sending us targeted coupons for decades, and it's not because a human looked through our buying data and decided those deals for us. It's all AI driven. So I found that when ChatGPT first came out, I was using it at the beginning of my workflow. I was saying, okay, give me 50 ideas for pieces of content. Chad, now the more we get deeper into this, the more I realize I'm using it at different stages of the workflow, which inevitably means I'm using it in different ways. For example, after I'm done with something now, I'll throw all that work, as comprehensive as it is, PDFs, everything I'm working on, and I'll say, what did I miss? And it'll give me that fresh perspective. Talk to us about where in your workflow it plugs different gaps.
Yeah. So it plugs content creation gaps, but it also, I'll give you a real perfect example. If you haven't seen it, Notebook LM from Google is a new kind of approach to using Gen AI. And what it allows you to do is upload, as you said, PDFs and content and all of these things. And that's great. It'll create, study guides and all of this stuff. Some of it's good, some of it's not. But the real power is that it actually creates an AI-based podcast where the two AI podcast guests are discussing your content. So now what it's doing is it's helping me look at my own created stuff in a different way. So I can hear it differently. The AI isn't reading it back to me. It becomes a, hey, is this going to resonate? I can kind of listen to it outside of my own head and my own creative process. And so that's one thing that we've started doing on a regular basis. We use it also to pressure test things that we're told by other consultants or other people in our collective. It's like, hey, this sounds good. Let's go pressure test it, validate the results, and see what we can do. We also will run massive iterations, so we can get 200 ideas in 30 seconds that we can go through and figure out which works the best. So from a start at the beginning, the brainstorming, we use it for that. We use it for content creation. I use it as a kind of a coach, as like I'm struggling with a thought, or there's a pattern, or there's a situation that I have with business, and I'm not 100% sure what the best approach is. And I'll use it as something that I can go back and forth with, that'll help me become more aware of maybe patterns I'm running that are getting in the way of my thinking. So it kind of sits along as like a digital sherpa, or, I don't want to call it a muse, because I believe we bring the creativity to it, but it's one of those things that is, saving time, it's saving money. But that's, to us, that's kind of table stakes. Everything with AI based should be doing that. For us, it really is about helping us make sure we're creating new ways of thinking, new ways of going to market, questioning our assumptions, letting it point out to us, things that we may be doing that may not be optimized for our go-to-market, for our little company, or, things like that. The uses are really kind of endless in terms of that use of, you can plug it into a process, that's great, but we want to get you to the next level where it really is the caliber of your thinking and the caliber of your engagement with the tools that will give you the opportunity to find these results you hadn't expected, or opportunities you hadn't previously defined.
Yeah, Chad, that's such a brilliant way to articulate it. How you said it's a digital Sherpa. I always think about how people talk about it's lonely at the top. And for us as entrepreneurs, we feel that loneliness, every single one of us. And I think that loneliness stems from, we don't talk about it often enough, but I think it stems from the fact that few people think like us. Few people see the world like we do. Few people can picture something that doesn't exist yet. They see their current situation, but us as entrepreneurs, we see this reality that we're really working hard to create in the future that nobody else can see yet. And so along those lines, that's where it gets lonely. So to hear you bouncing those ideas and that grand vision off of AI in a two-way conversation, it plugs that gap of loneliness, which leads me to, I know how intentional you are with your words. I love that messaging from your company about helping leaders maximize their relevance. Talk to us about how this stuff fits into the role of leadership.
Yep. So if you think about any given situation, whether you're a solopreneur and you're at an association trying to create leads or create connections, or you're in your family unit or with your friends, you have a different context, right? The context in which you're showing up is different, and your relevance or your purpose will change. It will be a little bit fluid. And so being aware of that macro to micro context allows you to consistently show up in the best way to be true to your purpose inside of the context you're operating in. Now, I know that sounds like a mouthful, but if you think about it, a lot of people will coast through life, right? As you get older, all of a sudden time seems to go by really quick. And so you're noticing that maybe you're not as present or self-aware at any given moment. And so what we've done is we've created a model, a thinking model that you can use to understand how your thoughts and your feelings are showing up in your body, how that's affecting your thought process, and as a result, how that's affecting your augmentation, and as a result, ultimately impacting whether or not you are relevant in the situation you're in. So for solopreneurs, this is about how do you remain relevant inside of the context of a rapidly changing technology landscape by taking advantage of it and showing up in ways that you hadn't previously thought would be necessary, or amplifying those areas that you thought were necessary but didn't have enough time to do. And so when we talk about relevance, it's really personal. It's just as personal as your purpose. Like, how do you want to show up? And then giving you a thinking model that allows you to augment your thinking through the use of Gen AI to make sure you're doing everything possible to be the best version of yourself inside of that context. That's what we mean by relevance.
Chad, I always talk to people about the fact that I have the coolest job in the world because I get to talk to amazing entrepreneurs and thinkers like you every day, but yours is right up there. It sounds like you've got a pretty cool job as well. So huge kudos to the work that you're doing. I want to ask you about pain points because as you're talking about all of these things, myself as a business owner for 16 plus years as well, I'm thinking, man, you're hitting all those pain points of what makes us realize I'm hitting this wall and I want to blast through it. What are some of those pain points that make people reach out to, I guess, clients or prospective clients of yours? What's that catalyst that makes them say, I want to work with a DeepHumanX, or I want to find external help to these problems that I'm facing, and I know that this is the path forward?
Yeah, that's a great question. So anybody at this point, what we're seeing is people will reach out if they understand or they've played with maybe ChatGPT or some version of, one of the LLMs, but it didn't quite click. They're like, yeah, this is okay, but I don't understand the application of it. But they are concerned, right? So some reach out as a result of the fear, uncertainty, and doubt. A lot of people will reach out because they want and are hearing the messaging that, hey, everybody needs to up-level their human skills, but nobody's really quite sure how to do that specifically to make their businesses be more effective. So we're not ever going to be therapists, although I have spent a lot of time in therapy. I am not a therapist, nor is Lori. What we are wanting to do is help you inside of a business context. So whether that's solopreneurs, small, medium businesses, or teams inside of larger organizations, we'll work with you to help you augment not only the leadership, but also your teams. Like, how do you effectively use it so that you can communicate better effectively? So I'll give you an example. Anybody who's run their own company or been in a larger organization, at some point, whether you're willing to admit it or not, you've come across somebody who, for some reason, just the energy that comes off of them, there's just something that doesn't click. There's friction between you and another person. And so that's normal. We don't talk about it a lot in business. We don't kind of take it head on. But if we take a step back and go macro, right, and start to think about, okay, what's showing up for me when I'm thinking of this person? And you start to identify, because at the end of the day, the only person you can change is yourself. You start to identify what's showing up for you and how you might be engaging with that person, or they're engaging with you, that sets off a pattern, sets off a memory, or it hits you the wrong way, so that you can then deal with it and become more effective at your communication. Lori, my business partner, used this. She worked for Fortune 500. I won't name them, but everybody would know who it is. And there was this situation for her inside of the business. And it turned out that the patterns that were being run were being misread by both people. And through using this kind of augmented approach, they were able to better understand each other, make tweaks in their approach to each other, and accomplish things that the company did not think were possible in much shorter time frames. And so it's one of those things where people are worried about the tech. They don't understand what this human skills thing is. They want to be better. They want to make more money. They want to have a good time. They want to work with people that they like. They realize that work doesn't work the way it used to. We all learned that as a result of the pandemic. And they're looking for a community and some guidance and some expertise and some tools that will allow them to surf the wave of change effectively rather than be overrun by it.
Yeah, Chad, I want to ask you this question because hearing you talk about this, it sounds overtly like we're talking about AI, but layered into all of this, what I'm really hearing from you today is it's the way you think. It's the way you embed AI into the things that you do. So that's an even bigger, and I would argue more challenging thing to bring to the world. Anyone can teach people how to use AI. You're incorporating that thinking model into all of it. So my question to you, it's a big one, is how are you doing this for business owners, for leaders? How do you walk them through? And I personally know, of course, I've got the advantage that our listeners don't, of looking into all this stuff beforehand about the fact that you do training, you do consulting, you do interactive coaching, you guys have courses. But walk us through the how of how you actually change the way people think about this stuff.
So it's really about creating the space for them to do the exploration and come to the realization on their own. So for the last decade, I have facilitated thousands of workshops from corporations to associations to help people communicate more effectively. So I've definitely spent a lot of time understanding that learner's journey and how you facilitate effectively someone along a journey. And so it's really about creating an experience, whether that be an online course, whether that be a retreat, whether that even be an interactive coaching session, where it isn't what we call sage on the stage. There's a lot of sage on the stage type of instructional videos that are out there, and an expert's going to give you all the answers, and here's all of the things you need to be successful. And those are great, but Gary Vee, I'm stealing this from him, was one of the ones when asked, why do you put all this stuff out there for free? The first thing he said was, because most of you aren't going to do it. So at the end of the day, we want to create the space through a facilitated journey to help people come to their own realizations rather than say, this is what you must do. The thinking model is a guide for us to do that. And it becomes kind of a GPS, if you will, on their journey through augmenting effectively with AI, understanding their purpose and enhancing those human skills that are going to be so critical. So it's a combination of the courses, the retreats, the coaching sessions. We may do cohort-based stuff. And it's also, quite honestly, it's our willingness to be as creative and open to new ideas. We've had several people approach us and say, hey, we'd love to see you bring this to life in a new way we hadn't thought of. And we're humble enough to say, hey, let's explore it. Let's see if it's possible. But it really is about facilitating that journey to self-realization inside of a business context while leveraging the technology. So you're getting multiple things out of it. Familiar with the tech, more familiar with yourself, and have something you can rely on that will give you a path forward. So as the change continues to accelerate, which all things say it will, you'll be able to stay on top of that wave.
Yeah, Chad, I really appreciate those insights. It leads me to ask you a question. I've never thrown this out to anybody on planet Earth, but I trust you to take this somewhere that's going to be meaningful and impactful for all of us, because hearing you talk about the future, I recently was introduced to the quote, I'm a sucker for quotes, that said, we're always growing, or we're always building two businesses, the one that we have today and the one that we're going to have 5 years from now. And it just sounds to me like, Chad, you and I have both been in the game for a long time. We've both experienced the twists and turns, and we don't know where we're going to be in 5 years, let alone 3 years probably. And so along those lines, we must think about the future. And you're in a very future-focused industry, and you know how quickly things are progressing more than the rest of us do. What's your attitude towards, I guess, that quote, framing it that way, but also just the future in general? Not only, I'm going to just really load this question on you, not only as a subject matter expert, but also as one of us, also as a fellow entrepreneur.
Yep. So I'll match your quote with another quote, and I may not have it exactly right, but it's one from Adam Grant, who's a Wharton neuroscientist. And it says that the future isn't about expertise, it's about agility. And so for me, it's really making sure that I am embracing an agile mindset so that I can be curious, explore things, question my own assumptions. Because I'll tell you, when we founded the company, earlier this year, we were kind of headed in a different direction. And so it was that openness to the thinking that said, hey, wait a minute, there may be a better way to do this, right? So we're going to be agile. We're going to pivot. A lot of people want to believe that the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. Well, in reality, that isn't always true. We teach a concept called lessening the define, which is stop worrying about the next step and focus on the destination. Embrace the pivots, right? Embrace the things that may change, and don't beat yourself up. That takes a lot for some people because it's kind of ground into us. If I'm not doing A, B, C, and D, then I'm not going to be successful. There are different ways to achieve your purpose, and we want to give you the space and a model to do that. So for me, the future, for me personally in this business or whatever else I may do, is all about that agility of thinking and investment in self, right? Third, I would say, is also understanding that you still have to do the work, which is why we're very clear in all of our, marketing and outreach and all of those things that we are not for everybody. Like, we are looking for those individuals who really are curious or want to invest in themselves in order to achieve things they hadn't thought possible, and are smart, insightful, but also humble enough to say, hey, I can always learn. I want to have a learner's mindset. And so if we can find those people and bring them together in a collective focused on each of our purposes that is agile in nature in the way that we think, we believe that the outcomes will far surpass what any of us may have come up with today.
Yeah, gosh, Chad, I could listen to you talk about this stuff all day long. You and I both knew, even before we hit record, that time would fly by because we could geek out about this stuff literally for days. But I'm going to ask you this last question because it's super broad and you can take it in any direction that you want. Good luck to you on somehow topping all of the great wisdom and insights that you've already given us today. But that question is, what's that one takeaway, the one piece of advice, knowing that we're being listened to by entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs all over the world at all different stages of their business growth journeys? What's that one thing that you want to impart on them?
Don't wait. Don't wait. Don't sit back. The thing that we're seeing with this technological change is the speed, right? So 2 years in since GPT was released, let's say, if you look at the same trajectory of adoption for the internet, based on US labor reports, it was like, 20% of people had adopted the tech 2 years in when the internet came out. We're looking at 2 years into AI or Gen AI, and it's 2x that. 40% of people, based on the report that came out this past September, have adopted the technology. So the speed is moving and it's not going to slow down. So the one thing I would say is pick a direction, take a step, reevaluate after that step and decide what direction you got to go, but don't wait, because the longer you wait, the higher the curve is going to be to catch up.
Boom. That is incredible advice for all of us. It's not advice we need to hear once. It's advice we need to remind ourselves all the time. So all of you entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs out there, you heard it from Chad directly. Don't wait. I always think about, Chad, since we're on a quote train today, I'll throw in my favorite Chinese proverb. The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is right now. So you're at the cutting edge of this stuff, Chad. I so respect the way that you think. I think you're absolutely brilliant. I'll say that publicly. I say it off the air with you as well as with our team, that just the way that you think and the way that you articulate these thoughts, there's so much value in that. And I'm going to say huge kudos to what you and Lori are doing with DeepHumanX, because anyone who visits your website, listeners, we're going to drop that link in just a second, but anyone who visits your website, it just feels like you and Lori didn't hold back at all. Everything is there about the way you think, the way you see it, the possibilities for business owners and for leaders. There's so much good stuff on there. You revealed why. It's because you do subscribe to that Gary Vee thought of, let's just give away the farm, because we want people to take action and we want to help people that won't take that action on their own. So with all of that as a primer, Chad, drop those links on us. Where should listeners go from here?
So hit us up at deephumanx.com. That'll be the best place. You'll also notice, if you hit the website, you'll have access to the DeepHumanX Relevance Academy. This is where all of our online courses will be. Also, check us out on YouTube at DeepHumanX. We have a podcast as well. We call it The Playground, Relatively Relevant AI, but it's really just us talking to people and exploring and thinking about thinking. So we invite you to see us there. And then don't hesitate, if you have a question, to reach out, and feel free to shoot me an email at chad.sanderson@deephumanx.com.
Yes, listeners, you already know the drill. We're making it as easy as possible for you to find all of those links down below in the show notes, no matter where it is that you're tuning into today's episode. And if you want to get more Chad, I'm excited. To have a fellow podcaster on the show is always such a joy. So Chad, you have so delivered in so many different ways. So listeners, definitely check out those links down below. Otherwise, Chad, on behalf of myself and all the listeners worldwide, thanks so much for coming on the show today.
Been an absolute pleasure. Thanks for having me.